Welcome back. Our third video about the realities of Chinese Jian. So we talked about the first two realities, which were the visible and the invisible sections of the sword. Both belong to the world we know, the material world. The third reality of the sword is the inner sections. The inner sections of the sword define the sword as an astral body. Like our human body also have a physical body and an astral body, which we call basically spirit or soul. These are two different, like in Chinese they have, say hun or shen, yeah, like soul or spirit. The sword too has a astral body, which exists not in time and also not in space, but it exists in this world called Xuan, which is basically the middle world between Tian and Di. Tian, like heavenly spheres, Di, matter, material spheres. Yeah, Xuan is the middle world in between. So the sword has also a Xuan side. We stated in the first video that this part is called Jian Shen, the body of the sword. Now, this part now, in the first video, I told you it has 4 different names in Chinese. The guard is the Dan Tian, the elixir field of the sword in the Xuan reality. Then we have the Yi of the sword, the mind of the sword, which is basically the person who uses it. The mind of the sword is connected to the sword through the hand of the human. Then we have, let's take this one here. The tassel is called the soul of the sword. In Chinese, sui. Yeah, sui means, in the first reality, we didn't talk about this in the first video. Sui is also one part of the sword, the external part of the sword. And sui or hun means soul of the sword. Yes, I hear you. You say, historically, they never fought with this. That is true. In Wudang Jianfa, this is used to control Shenfa and your own soul. So when you are able to use this in a certain way, when you move with the sword, that this doesn't distract you anymore and doesn't stuck around anymore, because at the beginning it always does. That's why most of you guys don't use that, and then take it from the history that you say, they never fought with this, I don't need to train with this. But in Wudang Jianfa, they for sure use the sui in order to build up the shenfa, and same time to control the own hun, means the own soul. So this tassel, basically, when you move and rotate a sword very fast, it's really, really unbind, how to say, like uncontrolled, yeah? It's like your hun, like your free, let's say, free spirit or free soul. So you always, the human being always wants to, do what it wants. I want this, I want to get this, I want it. So the human soul always goes for the things that it thinks it is good for him, yeah, and takes it also. The will is created just from this power, that the soul says, I want, yeah. So basically, with the practice of the tassel in Wudang Jianfa, this doesn't mean that any tradition must have this. We are just saying that we have this. We are practicing to control and know our soul better, know this motion better. Because when you have sword, start to roll. So when you basically start, at the beginning, this will be all over the place and go around your wrist, and then you must do this to open it, and always, how to say, it will stören, how to say that? Disturb you, your motion. So, but later you get to understand the tassel, and you learn to move, you learn to surf, you learn to fly with the soul of the sword. And then also, just one little example now from here. So for example, a little Liao motion here. Now look. Yeah. Look, if I have not use of, or if I don't use the tassel, and I do this now, look. Yeah, little Liao motion, right? Here. So watch the motion, what I do, and look what mistake I do right now. You can't see it because there is no tassel. But now I do the same motion with this one. Now watch. You see that? But now, you see that? Right? Shenfa, that's what I mean with Shenfa. Body motion. Now I take the wooden sword again, and my opponent has less chances to hit me. Because when I open up with the Liao motion and stay frontal in front of my opponent, so Liao opens this part of the body for attacks. So when the opponent sees sword falls down, he can intercept me on this side before my sword reaches his wrist. So doing this motion here, you let the opponent's attack go through. And that is taught us by the tassel in our system. I don't say you must have this in your system or tradition. And also historically, of course, not every tradition had that. But there were traditions in our school, in our tradition. It was a main part. Of course, in China, you also know Chinese Jian, yeah? There's a long tassel system. Just working with the tassel, basically. The sword also you lead and, yeah? But the tassel is more important at that system, not in ours. Yes, we also do not fight or do sparring with the tassel. But because of the solo work with the tassel, our Shenfa from the fundamentals on is a complete different Shenfa than if we wouldn't have this. Yeah? Okay. So that is the soul of the sword. Why we call it soul of the sword? Because at the beginning, it is going in every direction uncontrolled. But during our practice, we learn to tame it and move our body with it, like we school our soul. This doesn't mean we cut all the wishes that we have. No, we learn to flow with the, wishes that come from the soul. And we learn also that the soul listens to us, means the pure spirit, instead of we are listening to the soul that is not tamed yet. This is basically it about the Shen Tian. Jian means the sword, the underworld parts of the sword, as I said, the soul, the mind, the dantian. Yeah? When we do the sword meditation after every cutting session or every sparring, or if there is a battle, when we use the sword for a battle, or when they used to use it for a battle, afterwards there is one way of meditation. This goes into the underworld. Then within the meditation, you go into the underworld with your soul, with the Hun, and cleans the Shen, the material side of the sword, from any kind of stuck energies, bad energies, used energies, like old energies of the opponent, or the war situations that you had. Maybe there were also bad intentions in your mind that now stuck in this blade. And it's a big part of our education also to teach the meditation, how you clear the blade from those energies. Yeah? We are at the end of the 3 realities of the Chinese Jian, the 9 outer sections, then the inner, the invisible sections, the visible, the invisible sections, and the inner realities of the sword. I hope you have now a little bit better insight into this topic, and when you take this into your hands, this tool, you know what is this about. The reason I bring this up, or we bring this up before level 3, is once we start with the students, or once you start your sparring and fighting journey, for me personally, it's important that you should know what you're holding there. Yeah. As you know, this education doesn't go only with sword, and also not only with the staff, long pole or spear. It is an education on weaponry. But when you hold this sword in your hands, even though it's just, let's say, just a wooden sword for practice, the partner drills, or for free sparring, you should know what you are holding there. And you should have knowledge about the responsibility and the realities of this tool. Because once you go into that blindly, you are on one side, you are part of it, but on the other side, you don't know what are you part of. You understand? That's why for me it's important for all our students entering the level 3, hopefully from 21st of this month, that they have it, but also it's a general, it's nothing about this is secret, like it's a general knowledge for all of you guys who are enthusiasts of sword fencing, and maybe you have interest in Chinese or the Far East sword systems. And that is in the shortest way I could explain now. In the education, of course, it's detailed, but the shortest way that you have at least a little pointers to this topic.